Hey girl, what you doing over there? Oh my god, it's time to talk about another cult classic movie. I'm so excited to bring you guys my first John Waters movie to talk about on the channel. I figured it's probably best to prime you guys with John Waters, ease you into it, because this is the movie I feel like is a good introductory movie to anybody that wants to watch a John Waters film. Because let's just say they can get a little crazy. They can get a bit crazy. So this is probably the most palatable film to introduce those that are curious about the cult director John Waters. I'm of course referring to Hairspray. Hairspray starring Ricki Lake, Divine, Jerry Stiller, Debbie Harry. It's an all-star cast. Sonny Bono. It's crazy. Ruth Brown. They had a ton of people in this movie. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Hairspray and a little bit of the history behind Hairspray. The film was initially inspired by a Baltimore teen show that was on in the 1960s called The Buddy Dean Show. Now, The Buddy Dean Show is the proto, American Bandstand kind of show where they had musicians come on there to promote their songs, and they would have teenagers, local teenagers, come on and do dances, because dances that were tied to songs was a very big deal. Tie-in songs always had a dance to accompany them. So they had a bunch of teensters on the show to do the dances, and they also became local celebrities within Baltimore. And, becoming that celebrity at your school, oh my God, there's Carol Ann. She's on the Buddy Dean Show as a dancer. And they're supposed to be the nicest kids in town is what they're marketed as. It's sort of like Mickey Mouse Club meets American Bandstand if they had a recurring cast, right? This was a big deal for John Waters. He watched it. He had his favorites he would watch, and always imagine what it was like to be a Buddy Dean dancer and be living inside that world of such a small level of fame, local fame inside Baltimore, which brought us to Hairspray. Now, John Waters was looking to diversify his content, because at this point he was known as the King of Shock. He was called the Pope of Trash. All of his movies were very, very popular, moderately successful, but not very well reviewed, or honestly held to a high regard, even artistically.
Anarchist, the Ayatollah of Crud was a new one. I've been called all of them. It's nice to have titles.
Any personal favorite?
Oh yeah, William Burroughs called me the Pope of Trash, and to me, if I'm the Pope, then he's the god of trash.
Despite the fact that he was a very clever man with lots of really fun, interesting ideas, and a different approach to filmmaking at that time, he wanted to challenge himself to create a movie that was palatable for everybody. Everybody could watch it, but it was still a John Waters joint. He came up with the idea of doing Hairspray. And Buddy Dean's show became the Corny Collins show. And he needed the perfect heroine, ingenue, for the part that also slotted nicely and neatly into that John Waters niche of underdog characters that make good, a la Francine Fishpaw or Dawn Davenport or even Babs Johnson from Pink Flamingos. They're rebels, they're outsiders, they're outcasts, and they're not usually the type that becomes the leading role in a major film. His initial idea was to have Divine do a dual role where she would play the part of Tracy Turnblad and also the mother. But as of now, Divine was in her late 30s. She was not going to pass for a teenager. And John Waters really wanted to sell this because New Line had taken a lot of risk on John Waters movies. They were happy to distribute them, knowing they weren't going to get a big return. But they really, really wanted him to push himself out there and get a star that was a little bit more bankable.
True that you pitched the movie by going into people's offices and doing the dance?
I did the dances for every executive, got right up. Look, you got a pitching, you had 10 or 15 minutes to sell your idea. I got right up, started doing the bug, doing the roach, but it worked. They believed I was serious about it. It's, you have to be, unfortunately, to be an independent filmmaker, the main thing you have to be, you're a traveling salesman.
So he decided to go with an unknown. He held a casting call, and his idea was he wanted a heavy-set girl that could dance. And in Baltimore, he said he saw hundreds of them. Tons of girls came. None of them were really quite the right fit. However, one girl who was going to college at Vassar decided she was going to go out for the audition because she fit the bill. And that girl was Ricki Lake. She had decided to initially go down there, and she almost didn't go because she got a flat tire on the way there and ended up getting help from AAA and making the audition at the dead of night. And when they saw her, they knew they had something there. Ricki Lake had not really done a whole lot of acting at all at this point, but she just had that spark that he was looking for his Tracy. So Ricki Lake is cast. He knew he had to stack this up with a big cast of characters to really onslaught and offshoot that he's a complete unknown in the major role. So of course, Divine becomes the mother. Jerry Stiller of the famed Stiller comedians is the father. Then we have Debbie Harry from Blondie as the main antagonist's mother. We also have Sonny Bono playing a bad guy in this, Ruth Brown, the famous R&B singer, and of course your usual cast of John Waters regulars from the Dreamland crew like Mink Stole and the like. They have a cast. John Waters has written the script, and it's actually surprisingly quite wholesome considering. However, I will say, just because I say it's wholesome compared to his other work, doesn't mean it doesn't have the same amount of edge. Now, the brief synopsis is Tracy Turnblad dreams of being on the Corny Collins show, the local dance competition show in Baltimore. She auditions, she gets on. Who should be on there but the guy of her dreams, Link Larson, who again is played by Michael St. Gerard. Let me just say this. He is so beautiful. Oh my God. He's like the spitting image of young Elvis. And he even went on to play Elvis in like a much ballyhooed miniseries. But he's the only guy I could ever see that looked just like him. Like, oh my God, when you see him, you're going to gag. Like, he looks like Elvis. And she ends up getting in the crosshairs of another girl who happens to be dating Link, Amber, who is played by Vitamin C, the singer from the 90s. You know, that graduation song, like, as we go on, that one. That's her. That's Vitamin C. Like, I was shocked to see, like, she's in this movie? That's what she was doing before that? That's wild. Remember when she was on the cover of Rolling Stone with, like, Pink and Beyonce? Like the upcoming pop star girlies, like that shit was crazy. How far she came. Anyways, I digress. She ends up making it on there and like the whole crew is not feeling her. Like they don't want this fat girl dancing on TV. And even the station is a little like nervous about this. Like they know it's kind of risky, but they're willing to take the risk. And even Corny Collins sees the potential in her. Like he sees she's got a lot of drive and she's a great dancer. And she knows all the songs, so what's the harm? And of course, Tracy becomes a sensation overnight. And she ends up becoming very, very influential in her city. And using her influence, she decides she wants to do something good. She can't help but notice the unfair treatment whenever there is Black people on the Corny Collins show. They're not allowed. They only get 1 day a month. And she doesn't think that's very fair. And she ends up befriending a lot of people at her school and becoming radicalized and wanting to fight for civil rights. This movie was remade in the early 2000s, and I must say, it definitely sanded down a lot of the edges of this movie. A lot of things don't quite go over as well as they do. However, what I do like about this one is like John Waters was at least self-aware and knowing that he was making a white savior movie. And it's something that we all like kind of roll our eyes at now, which I feel like he definitely called attention to that. And definitely made it known that, like, she is this and she's in way over her head and doesn't quite understand exactly all the things she's saying because, again, she's like a dumb teenage girl who just wants to, like, see change in the world and doesn't necessarily understand that, like, a lot of this is bigger than her. And it's a lot of conversations that she doesn't quite have a grasp on. And he makes note of that. He makes it very well known in scenes that, like, Tracy is very in over her head, but she's just trying her best. And she's trying her best to make a change in the world. Or at least in small Baltimore. I gotta say, the soundtrack in this movie is everything. Like, John Waters is such a tastemaker when it comes to, like, putting together a soundtrack. This is one of those few soundtracks I actually own on CD. Like, there is some absolute girl group bangers on this. Not to mention, like, that song from the Ikettes when they go to the dance. Oh, my God. And you see, like, these amazing dancers. And Ruth Brown is everything in this. Her costumes are crazy. Little backstory, Ruth Brown wrote in her book that when she got on set and she got in her trailer, she saw her costumes for Hairspray and she wept. Like she cried because they were so ugly. But that was something a lot of actors had gone through whenever they did early John Waters movies. It's like they were given some of the most hideous costumes in the world because that was the aesthetic of the film. Like it had to be outrageous, it had to be over the top, it had to be high camp. And I'll be damned if she does not play this with all earnestness. And she's great. Like, you'll love Ruth Brown in this. Everyone's great, honestly. There isn't really, like, a weak character in the cast. Like, definitely check this one out because you are missing out on such a fun legacy piece in John Waters' filmography.
This is tremendous. It's a great day for Baltimore. I thank John Waters for bringing it about.
For the last 20 years, John Waters has been shooting movies in Baltimore. Movies that weren't always as acceptable as this, his latest success, Hairspray.
It's recently been brought into the Criterion Collection, which means it's officially a prestigious piece of film, okay? It's something that's being held in a high regard, which I think is about fucking time. I've been preaching from the mountainside about how much we have to take John Waters seriously as a filmmaker, and finally it's happening. Like, he's had a whole exhibit at the Academy Museum, which I did see. It was everything. I saw a lot of these costumes in person, and it blows your mind to see just, like, how cheaply made a lot of this stuff is, like, and how it really reads on camera. Like, some of the most cheap, flimsy materials were used to make these costumes, and they're just so sparkly and glamorous as soon as film cameras hit them. And honestly, Ricki Lake is infectious. Like, I love Ricki Lake's performance in this because she's so bubbly and so, like, over the top, just, like, positive. Like, she wants to see the good in the world, but she's also got a bit of a mean streak in her because she's still, like, a teenager in Baltimore in the 60s. So she's got, like, a roughness and an edge to her that, again, I feel was filed down in the remakes. And even the musical, like, Tracy's not nearly as, like, she doesn't have that crust. Like, a lot of the newer Tracys don't have that crust that Ricki Lake has, okay? Like, she's got some rough edges to her, and she's not a perfect character, which I think is kind of needed for this kind of film. And it takes a lot of the fire out of the belly when it comes to the remakes, and partly why I didn't like it. Also, John Travolta. Ugh. Anyways, this is one of those few movies where a drag queen is in an actual role where it's not a drag role. Like, Divine is playing a character and was actually taken seriously by John as a character actress. Like, a lot of the films that she's made with John Waters, Divine's not playing a drag queen. Like, they're playing a woman. Like, it's just a character choice. It sort of reminds me, if you've ever seen Haunted Honeymoon with Dom DeLuise, he's playing like the old matriarch woman in that, and no one ever addresses the fact that it's a man in drag. It's just accepted that it is what it is.
A caring mother for a change.
That's what I mean. It was a different role for me to play. Both of them were, so it made it interesting and a lot of fun.
And I kind of miss that about 80s films. Like, a lot of films would do that and you wouldn't think anything of it. Like, it's okay. It's just part of comedy. It's fine. And I kind of miss that kind of character comedy. I wish it would come back. Now, this movie is a great introductory piece for anyone that's curious about John Waters films. And it's one of those big testers for me whenever I, like, introduce a new friend to my fold. Like, if they don't like Hairspray, I don't want to be friends with them because I don't trust their taste. It's one of those, like, big testers, like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, Hairspray, Demons, Suspiria. Like, if you don't like those, I don't want to be friends with you. All right, I'm sorry. Our tastes are going to clash. It just is what it is. But if you like Hairspray, I'd say the next one down the rabbit hole has to be Serial Mom and then Crybaby. Like, those are the easiest ones to get into. And we should talk about Serial Mom. That's a fun one. We'll probably do that one next. Let's go on a John Waters streak. Why not? But yeah, definitely check out Hairspray. It is essential viewing if you're a gay person or anyone that's just curious about John Waters' works. It's probably the best representation of his most palatable, like, mainstream film. And clearly because it became a hit stage musical on Broadway with tons of runs, as well as, like, a movie production of it in the 2000s and, like, a whole live version of it with Ariana Grande. Like, you don't get more mainstream than that. Also, I feel like one thing that I love about this movie is that intro song with Hairspray by Rachel Sweet. Girl, again, I could kick the doors off the hinges when I hear this song. And I get kind of, like, cracked up whenever I hear Rachel Sweet's voice. She's one of those singers where I know her mostly for being, like, a voice actress. Like, she's been voiced a lot of cartoon characters, and she's done, like, ghost singing for a lot of stuff. Like, all of, like, Allison's voice in Crybaby is Rachel Sweet. As well as, like, she was one of those, like, early UK, like, stiff record label singers, like the record label Stiff that had, like, Tracy Ullman and stuff and Kirsty MacColl. Like, Rachel Sweet was on that too. And she had, like, a bunch of, like, cover albums that I really, really liked. She's got a really good cover of Be My Baby. Oh, she was also in that wild-ass romantic comedy, All Tied Up with Terry Hatcher and Zach Galligan. If you're a young Kingster, everyone knows that one. It's like, just from, like, the poster of Zach Galligan, everything. But I remember she was actually, like, a comedic character in that as, like, a bartender. And her best friend was, like, the bar owner who was a cross-dresser, which I thought was like, okay, I like this chick. Like, I'd hang out with her at that bar. I'd go to that bar. But definitely check out Hairspray. It's totally influential. And you can see, like, that, especially at the very end with that roach dress, how many drag queens have recreated this to varying degrees of success. But it's one of those often recreated dresses from Hairspray that, like, is still iconic. That powdery pink dress with the roaches all over it. It's so cute. And I actually got to see it in person at the Academy Museum, and, like, it's stunning. Like, it's a stunner. All right. Again, get into Hairspray. It's wild. It's wacky. It's over the top. It is a camp classic. And you'll understand why it was the movie that propelled John Waters to be able to make mainstream films. And it was one of his biggest hits, which no one was expecting. I think the biggest shock of all was that the movie was PG.
Do you think the fans of the earlier John Waters movies and your earlier movies might be a bit disappointed in seeing you in a PG-rated film?
Well, we didn't set out for it to be a PG. We were quite shocked that it actually is a PG. And I think that's the most shocking thing about the film, that it is a PG.
Like, his very first PG movie. John Waters, the guy that had Divine eating dog poop, got a PG film in the late 80s. No one could believe it. That was the biggest shocker of them all. And sadly, 2 weeks after the film premiered, Divine did pass away from a heart attack. John Waters commented that it was a nice tribute that Divine got to see glowing reviews for a change after a career of nothing but scathing reviews from critics.
But no, I think it's very entertaining, very funny, and I don't think anyone's disappointed. It makes you laugh.
I thought it was wonderful. I think it's one of the best films Glenn has made, John Waters has produced.
Get into it. Hairspray by John Waters starring Ricki Lake. You're going to love it, all right? Now, if there's any other movies you guys want me to cover, or any John Waters movies you want me to get in discussions on, let's talk about it, because he's honestly my absolute favorite director of all time. I could talk about him all day. All right, take care of yourselves, and until next one, bye!
Oh, Mother, you're still 50.
Well, it's over now. Click my next YouTube video. Like, comment, and subscribe.